You know that feeling, right? That sense of being pulled in two different directions at once? Well, it turns out that battle inside your head isn't some kind of glitch. It's actually a core feature of how our brains are wired.
I mean, we've all been there, frozen in an aisle at the store, or just lying awake at night, wrestling with a decision. That feeling of being stuck between two things that both seem right or wrong. That's a universal human experience.
And this mental tug-of-war, it pops up everywhere. It's that uncomfortable feeling when you do something that goes against your own values. It's the paralysis you feel staring at a pros and cons list. And yeah, it's even those bittersweet moments, like a graduation, that feel both happy and sad at the same time.
But here's the big idea I want you to hold on to as we go through this. This internal conflict, it's not a bug in your system, it's a feature. It is your brain's main strategy for navigating a really complicated world. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it works.
Okay, so let's start with the one you've probably heard of, the classic conflict. This is all about the discomfort of dissonance, that nagging feeling you get when what you do just doesn't line up with what you believe.
It's a pretty simple three-step process, really. First, you have a belief, right? Like, I support local businesses. Then, you do something that totally contradicts it, like clicking Buy Now on some giant online store. And boom, you get that little pang of discomfort. That's your brain screaming for consistency.
A psychologist named Leon Festinger gave this a name way back in 1957. He called it cognitive dissonance. And he realized that this discomfort isn't just a feeling, it's a powerful motivator. It literally pushes us to change something, anything, just to make that uncomfortable feeling go away.
And to study this, psychologists have gotten pretty clever. Now, this table might look a little academic, but just look at the kinds of things they do. They'll ask people to write essays arguing against their own opinions, or they'll point out someone's hypocrisy. The point isn't the specific experiment, but to show you just how many everyday situations can trigger this internal clash. All right, so that covers conflicts between our beliefs and our actions. But what happens when the conflict is baked into a single goal? That brings us to our next section, the approach avoidance tug-of-war, where one single thing pulls you in opposite directions.
This is what's known as an approach avoidance conflict. Think about asking for a raise at work. The approach part is awesome. More money, more respect. But the avoidance part is terrifying. What if they say no? What if it's awkward? You're drawn to it and repelled by it at the exact same time.
The best way to think about this is like having a gas pedal and a brake in your brain. Your gas pedal is your behavioral activation system, the BAS. It sees a reward and yells, go, go, go. But your brake is the behavioral inhibition system, the BIS. It spots risk and punishment and just slams on the brakes. In these conflicts, both are being pressed at once. And this explains perfectly why we get cold feet. When a big decision is far off in the future, the desire, the gas pedal, feels stronger. But as you get closer to actually doing it, like the day before the big presentation, that anxiety, that brake gets more and more powerful. It can literally bring you to a dead stop right at the finish line. So, we've talked about conflict in what we do and what we want. But what about conflict in what we feel? This brings us to our third section, your brain on mixed emotions, and the whole neuroscience behind that bittersweet feeling. Can you actually feel happy and sad at the exact same moment? I mean, this is the perfect example, isn't it? Dropping your kid off at college, it's the definition of bittersweet. There's this profound sense of loss and heartache, but it's mixed with this incredible feeling of pride and joy. So what is actually happening inside our brains in a moment like that? For the longest time, scientists thought we were just rapidly switching back and forth, a little sad, a little happy, a little sad. But it turns out it's way more interesting than that. The real answer depends on which part of your brain you're talking to. It really boils down to two different systems. You've got your older, more primitive brain parts, like the amygdala. They're very black and white. For them, something is either good or bad. But then you have your newer, more evolved cortical regions, like the prefrontal cortex. These parts can handle complexity. They're the ones that allow for a true both-and experience. The ability to feel that heartache and that pride, all at once. Okay, so we've looked at three really different kinds of internal conflict. But now for the part that ties it all together. This is the big unifying idea, where we see that conflict isn't really the problem, it's actually an engine for something incredibly important. So what's the common thread here? What connects that weird feeling of buying something you shouldn't have, the anxiety of asking for a raise, and the bittersweet feeling of saying goodbye? What is the brain actually trying to do? And here it is. Now don't get hung up on all the boxes and lines in this diagram. Just focus on that arrow moving to the right. See, the conflict isn't the end of the story, it's the trigger. It kicks off a process, a regulatory process that's designed to help us deal with that tough feeling.
This is probably the most important idea in this entire explainer. That feeling of discomfort, the dissonance, the anxiety, the bittersweet pang, it's not the problem. It's a signal. It's your brain's alarm bell saying, hey, pay attention to this. And everything we do to make that feeling better, it's all a form of what scientists call emotion regulation. Conflict is the engine that forces us to manage our own feelings.
Okay, so understanding the why is awesome. But what about the how? Let's get practical and talk about some science-backed strategies you can actually use to navigate these internal battles a little better. The research really points to 4 big tools for your toolbox. First, you can reframe your thoughts. That means actively questioning those negative fears that are causing the conflict. Second, you can use a framework. Go old school. Make a simple pros and cons list to get logical about it. Third, and this one is huge, you can clarify your values. A lot of conflict just melts away when you align your choices with what you really care about. And finally, you can practice mindfulness. Just watch that tug-of-war in your head without judging it. That alone can create enough space for you to see the right path forward.
So, the next time you feel that internal tug-of-war, just remember it's not a sign that you're broken, it's a sign that your brain is working exactly as it should, trying to navigate the world, manage your emotions, and ultimately push you to grow. The real question isn't how to avoid conflict, it's what will you choose to do with it.